the insurance space for well over 40 years now. We actually began as a corporate entity operating corporate offices. This company was founded by a Cuban immigrant who actually did life insurance in the 1970s. And in those years, several different from auto insurance policies become mandatory, and he starts the first Estrella agency in 1980 as an immigrant, really pursuing the American dream. And thankfully, our founder, Mr. Estrella, was very successful in growing 40 corporate locations. And in 2008, we began to offer the opportunity to folks to actually have their own Estrella Insurance agency. We converted all 40 corporate locations, really giving the first opportunity to employees that had been with us for many years, growing from simple customer service representatives up to the managers of each location. And we presented them the opportunity to own their business. Most of them did. From 2010 on is when we really began offering franchises from scratch. From 2010 in those 40 corporate locations, we are now 160, thankfully. And we're operating across 4 markets right now, across Florida, Arizona, California, and Texas. So I wanted to give everybody a brief overview of how this company started, and it's, again, a family-owned business still running, really providing opportunities to a lot of immigrant families, and now through the help of Visa Franchise and Vetted Biz, I'm happy to say that we're now providing opportunities to immigrants from other nations to come on board and be able to pursue the American dream for themselves here. I next want to give you, if we can move over to the next slide, please. I want to tell you that our entire system is compromised by franchises, in the sense that we no longer operate any corporate entities or any call centers. The entire focus of our organization is in our franchisees and in helping them succeed and helping them start up the business and help them grow, and hopefully grow to have multiple units. We have owners that have from anywhere from 1 location up to well over 15 units in one particular ownership group. So the opportunities for growth in our organization are huge, So no corporate units. Our business is strictly for the franchisees. I now want to talk to you a little bit about the actual businesses and the services that we provide. If we can go ahead and continue over to the next slide. Our market is what's called the property and casualty insurance industry, and this covers a lot of fields, but the main markets that we work with are the masses, where the biggest volume is, which is 1, auto insurance. So every driver is a potential customer. Also, we insure homes, and we insure all types of businesses. And these products are the everyday operations of our locations. But apart from the main, our core business, we also insure boats, we can insure motorcycles, we can insure RVs. The value that we really bring to our customers is the ability to be a one-stop shop for all of their needs. And to our franchise owners, this really presents an opportunity where they can bring in multiple revenue streams from one customer. You can insure their boats, their homes, their businesses, their cars, so the potential for growth in that aspect is huge. If we can move over to the next slide here, apart from our core services, we actually have a couple sister companies that we work with. One is Ticket Defense. It's a ticket organization that handles customers' tickets. So this is a very personal business, and our owners and their employees get to really know their customers, and they can create referrals by referring, all their ticket needs for accidents or anything like that to this sister organization and build a referral income from that. Same thing with the immigration program that we have. We have an entire arm of attorneys at our disposal in our sister company that handle immigration cases, criminal cases, and this is all another source of referral income for our owners, that they can refer their customers and their needs to our sister organizations. Now, this industry of property and casualty is competitive. And what is our formula to really be competitive in a market? You might be wondering how we differentiate from the mom and pop businesses or even larger national insurance companies. And the formula really here with us is to represent a large amount of insurance carriers. So we represent national carriers, companies that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, like Progressive, Infinity, Mercury, just to name a few. And then we also work with localized companies that might do business in a particular market or in a particular state. And it's by having a combination of these companies under our belt, we can always find the right fit for the customer, whether you have a higher income individual with a higher credit score, whether you have individuals that have tickets or accidents that might not qualify with a particular company. But this plethora of companies allows you as an owner to really be able to insure anybody that walks into your agency. And a key thing with us is that apart from working with top insurance carriers across the nation, we actually own and operate our own insurance company as well, an auto insurance company that we keep exclusively for our owners. And this is just one more way that we help them be more competitive in the markets by having representation from a company that nobody else has access to.
Felipe, are you able to be, we have a question, are you able to be more competitive than like an independent insurance broker? Do they not have as good pricing as Estrella with the big insurance companies? How does that work?
Well, this can vary in the territory. This business is very large, and it's going to be very hard to encompass everything. But the advantage of a franchise system is that we already have representation from the top carriers. A lot of these independent insurance companies do not have the same amount of carriers that we are able to bring under our belt, you know, and not just the amount of carriers, but maybe not the entire amount of products and the suite of products that we can own, we can, you know, offer to the clients. So that, and the fact that we have our own insurance company also gives us another competitive edge. Not to mention the main benefit of a franchise really is the brand name, you know, and that developed brand name and the service that we provide and that we teach our owners to provide sets us even further apart from the independent companies. So we have every single tool at our disposal to compete with national insurance companies as well as
I see Estrella everywhere.
Good.
Driving my car, I listen to it on the radio. You guys are all over the place.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about the marketing.
Job.
That's a big advantage of the way we advertise across traditional and digital media, you know, and thankfully some organizations that have recognized us, and there's quite a few we can talk about, but there's two particular awards that I think we're the most proud of. One is Entrepreneur Magazine, and this organization, out of the thousands of franchises that are available here in the US, every year they rank the top 500 ones, and we've been thankfully have been awarded with these guys since 2013 up until now, the year 2020. So we're very proud of that recognition. And another one that is probably even more important to us is from an organization called Franchise Business Review. And what these guys really look into is the satisfaction of the franchisees, and they review the satisfaction of all the franchises in the US. I think that have more than 10 units or so. And based on that, they publish a list of the top 200 franchisors whose franchisees are the most satisfied with the branding, with the support and the training. And we've also been around with these guys for many years. And those are two important recognitions that we like to stress. Us as a parent company, actually this past year, 2019, made it onto the Inc. 5000 of the top 5,000 private companies in the US. We're happy to be a member of that group now. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the publications that have been kind to us. Now, many of you as investors and especially with the current climate that we have, and you're considering what kind of opportunities you like to explore. And I think due to the current condition, a lot of people are having second thoughts about what might constitute the correct opportunity in this business climate. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about why insurance really stands apart from many. And the number one thing that I do like to say is that we deal with a mandatory product in our business. If you drive a car, if you have a home, if you have a business, I'm sure all of you know you need to have insurance by law. So there's not too many businesses that you can really say that your product and your service is required by law. You know, we're not selling ice cream or sandwiches here. This is a mandatory product, you know, and that helps bring the customer to you because it really is a need that they have. You know, in fact, for example, auto insurance, I don't like to even refer to it as a sale. It's more of a service that we're providing to these customers because they need it and they're really looking for the best coverage and the best price. And that's where we shine with the amount of units that we have. Not to mention that this business requires no inventory or equipment at all. Ultimately, this creates a lower overhead for the business owners, you know. So margins always are gonna depend on how every owner operates their business, but clearly with no inventory or equipment, you stand to have a better margin than a lot of other industries. You know, this is also carries a very minimal investment when you look at franchising as a whole. You know, our investments really start from about $50,000 in total for a commercial unit with us. And when you compare this to so many different industries, you know, we're very economic way to, you know, come into the business. And not only do we sell just one product, like I mentioned to everybody, we have the ability to have a customer that starts off insuring their car with us. Then you can insure their home. Then you can insure their business. You can sell them life insurance. You can insure their RVs or their motorcycles. So you create multiple revenue streams. And the thing that really makes this business valuable in terms of revenue is the way you make money. You make money not just on initial sale of a policy or a product, but companies repeat that payment over and over again as a policy renews. So if you have a client that has a 6 or 1 year policy, when that company pays, you know, 14%, they will again pay you the 14% after 6 months. And we obviously work very hard with our owners, so they retain anywhere from 75, 70, 80% of their business. You know, so you build a system that allows you to build repeated income, and you slowly add more and more and more clients. And this creates a business model that can grow exponentially. I mean, we have agencies that have been open for over 35 years that are still, you know, beating the numbers they did last year. You know, I don't think there's too many companies or businesses you could say that show that kind of growth nearly after 35 years. Patrick, do we have another question?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense in terms of the growth. And I love the renewable revenue. Every month you get it. I do like also other concepts like barbershops, but the issue is during COVID, you know, I used to go every 5 weeks. Now I'm going every 8 weeks. So, you know, you're still paying for your business insurance every month. You're still paying for all this other insurance every month. You don't have the option to really, you know, stop paying as much. Maybe you can scale down a little bit, but it's not going to be compared to some other businesses, especially in the beauty space, where you can really tone down, or food where you're not going out as much. Quick question from Raul. Go on.
No, did you have a question?
So we have a question.
Yes.
We have a question from Raul. Morning, Felipe. Is there a possibility to establish a franchise in New York State?
Great question, Raul. I'm happy to say that very soon, yes, it will be. And New York happens to be what's called a registration state. There are about, out of all the states, there are about 13 that make it just a little bit harder to do business in that state. And you have to register certain documents directly with that office. We have actually already started our registration process in New York. We have quite a few interested candidates in opening there. And I hope to be able to offer a franchise within, you know, possibly by the end of this year, January. We're hoping to have the registration filed with the state. So yes, and this is a process that takes a little bit between finding the location. So, the time frame is adequate. So yes. Do we have another question there, Patrick?
Well, we had another question. What states are available right now? Where is Estrella most poised for success?
Great question. And this can vary depending on the ambitions of the candidates, but metro areas are ideal for growth, especially multi-unit growth. We usually look at markets that are from 75,000 in population and up to establish agencies. So metro areas are great. So we still have availabilities in markets like Florida, Arizona, California, Texas, where we're at now. But really any metro area that we look at can be a potential for the business. Obviously there's a market study that has to come into place to make sure that we're putting the person, the candidate in the best position for the business, and to make sure that the demographics line up. But any area that has at least a population of 75,000 and up can certainly be considered as a potential territory for this business, because at the end of the day, everybody needs insurance, no matter what state you're in. Did we have another question?
Actually, I had a question because talking about the resilience, how is Estrella doing right now with COVID in terms of franchisees, performance over the last few months? What do you anticipate? It'd be good to understand a little bit more.
Sure. I'm very glad you asked me that, Patrick, because I think that's another large benefit of our system here. So many sectors have been completely wiped, by this disease and this virus. And, what we have found as this situation developed is that our product continues to be necessary. So we have not had a drastic drop in business. I think during 2 lockdown months, new business came down a very slight amount, but I'm talking single digits here, under 5% in business. But our locations were deemed essential. Our agencies never had to stop doing business, not even physically. Some owners elected to work virtually from home, but most of them in a reduced capacity continued to operate in a physical fashion. This business is derived a lot from the renewal. So these policies renewing. So, our owners had these renewals still coming and coming and coming. Was there a slight drop in new business for about 2 months? Yes. But as soon as that complete lockdown ended, things picked right back up. I'm happy to say that I think I only had one owner that was had to apply for the PPP loan. We didn't have any owner that laid off employees due to the virus. So, I'm happy to say that we've seen that our model and our product is recession proof and COVID proof. Within the last 2 months, I can tell you that we've opened up 4 new agencies, and that might be surprising to some, but development has continued. Our sales have continued, and these 4 agencies are developing just fine. So we're better positioned than most, I'm happy to say, Patrick.
Okay. And this actually ties in well to your next slide in terms of how do you support your franchisees from both the initial as well as an ongoing basis?
Yes. So the initial is very important. I think a lot of folks that when you first think of insurance and when they are looking at franchises and they see restaurants and cleaners and they see insurance, it can seem daunting. It can seem like a daunting word, that there might be heavy regulations. But the way that we train our franchisees, we have success stories. In fact, some of the biggest success stories that we have with us are folks that had no previous insurance experience whatsoever. We do not require it because we have a very robust system where we first teach them the theory of the business, of how the insurance products, how they work. We teach them the management, the organization of the agency, from their employees, the local marketing, the selling, the retention of these clients, the referral. which they need to draw from customers. It's critical to the growth and success of many businesses, but especially this one. So every aspect of the business, we first teach them the theory of. Now, I know there's a lot of franchises where they kind of take you in for a couple of weeks and then, let you start going, but apart from teaching our owners the theory of it, we actually also have them apply it, and we have them do training at our established location of ours that has a good amount of years operating and a good flow of customers. So they really get to learn those day-to-day operations from up to 6 weeks in spending time in there. So we have a very robust training program, and we do not consider insurance experience necessary because of that. We're able to teach our owners everything within a 2-month span. But for us, this business of insurance, it's not static. It's a business that keeps changing. Regulations can vary by market. So the ongoing support is crucial to the franchisees. So we actually have an operations department that is in charge of, I have personnel in every single market, and the responsibility of these folks and that representative in that market is to oversee and help the particular group of franchisees not only open the business from the build out and make sure everything is up to code and ready to go, but walk through those first few months, especially as they ramp up and grow the business. We're there to help them with any issues that they might have with a client if they don't know where to quote a particular product. You have in business 40 years of experience here, but when you combine the experience of the leadership team here at Estrella, you have over 200 years of insurance experience that is here to support the franchisees. So I like to think of this as a marriage. This is kind of like the first date, and we always walk hand in hand, teaching our franchisees essentially till they can do everything themselves without much assistance from us.
Well, it's a long agreement too. Like what is the initial franchise term when they're signing the franchise agreement with us today?
The franchise agreement is initially for 10 years. And ideally after 10 years, the relationship going great, we offer them a renewal where they can renew the franchise agreement for another 10 years. And then after those 10 years, they can renew for a further 10 more. So the original contract actually allows somebody to be in a franchise location with us for 30 years. And this is important because this is a business that grows on a yearly basis. We like to refer to it not as a sprint, but as a marathon, that you're growing your business steadily more and more over the years. And, most owners, once again, because of the way it grows, they want to stay in business for as long as they can, not to mention that as they grow it, I always say that no matter how good an opportunity is, think that, there might be an exit somewhere down the road, right? And we allow our owners to grow the equity in their business. And at the time comes where they want to retire, whatever it could be, they have the opportunity to sell and profit completely from these businesses that they have grown.
Yeah, that's a big, you've spoken a little bit about the multi-unit, but that's a big opportunity to grow multiple locations because generally the exit, you're going to trade at a higher multiple of the profits and or the revenue. So we've seen some pretty big exits in the franchise space where, if you have 5 locations, 10 locations, that's a good amount of money to definitely retire and even potentially pass on to some of your heirs. So a lot of opportunities there. We have a question from Vit. Does Estrella provide a starting book of clients, or do I have to work my customer base from scratch?
Vit, depends on the way we're going to work this. I've been talking a little bit about a new franchise opportunity, right? So when we're talking about that, we're really talking about an agency from scratch, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the formula and the way we place you in a market. But the way we place you for growth in a new market is obviously in the right location, the right visibility, the right demographic, for you to bring in clients in a physical basis from the branding and the physical location, for you to bring in business from the general advertising and marketing campaigns that we do. We allow our owners to create local target campaigns in their market. And as they ramp up the business from that, the referrals that this business creates really is where the biggest growth is. So that's the way a new agency grows, in that sense. Now, besides that, we do have on occasion owners that are looking to possibly sell their agency. Maybe they've been in business with us for a while, and that could be an option too, depending on the market that you are in and whether we have a franchisee that is looking to sell. But we do not operate as a corporate entity in our operations ourselves, so I would not have any, corporate offices to sell to you, but there could be a possibility of a franchisee selling, So those are two options that can be talked about. I think a third option in respects to if you were looking to start with a book of clients, we are now exploring the option of being able to, through a business broker, look at the possibility of buying an established insurance agency and then converting it to the Estrella model, to grow it and even more. So there's a few options there, and I think it's ultimately going to depend on the market that you are in. But I encourage you to reach out to Vetted Biz, and I'd be happy to get into more specifics about that.
Perfect. And yeah, as a reminder, anyone that wants to have a one-on-one conversation with Felipe, we'll send you the information at the end of today's chat to schedule that one-on-one conversation if you'd like to get more information on Estrella. We're going to move right along because, again, we have a special guest, immigration attorney Larry Behar, who's going to talk about some of the requirements if you're not a U.S. citizen or green card holder, to how you might be able to move to the U.S., do the American dream through Estrella, and get a visa at the same time. So I want to move right along, about 10 minutes. We can go through a couple more of your slides, maybe field a couple more questions, and then turn it over to Larry. All right?
Sure thing. So I mentioned that part of the key of this business really is, apart from the training, is the physical location. Very important. And with 160 agencies, we have a very good idea of the attributes that we look for, from the visibility, the kind of center, whether it's an anchor center or a strip mall. But we look to have our agencies in strategically placed areas that have high traffic, high volume of density that brings in repeat business. So that is crucial, and it's unfortunately the number one mistake that I see folks make is where they end up opening the business, because that's going to be a huge factor in the growth, and looking into the population, the incomes, the races, homes, renters. So there's an entire study that is made where we analyze a lot of opportunities in the territory until we find and help our franchisee not only find it, but negotiate the best terms, from the rent rate, exclusivity, rent-free period, a few things there. We can go ahead and continue to the next slide. So not only finding it, but assisting them in building it out, making sure everything is adequately, the certificate of occupancy, helping them establish, if they want to, a grand opening campaign to create publicity in that local market, whether through print means or through digital means, so we have a plan for the reopening, and make sure everything is in order, the representation from the insurance companies, and we spend a lot of time with our new franchisees right when they open, especially that first few weeks, making sure that we revisit everything that they learned through the training, and to make sure that all those core concepts are really solid, so they get off on the right foot to grow the business. Marketing and advertising, this is a huge advantage that the franchise system that we have offers to the franchisees, because we are very aggressive with the marketing that we do. Some of you may be in some territories that we are in, but you look at markets that we are now growing. We are very aggressive in terms of traditional advertising, from billboards, bus ads, radio, digital means, from Instagram, Facebook, and so on. We're very aggressive, and this helps to not only create brand equity and more confidence in the mind of the consumer, but to really bring in business. And what we do is we direct all that business to our agencies based on the zip codes, whether it's phone calls or whether it's internet quotes. We direct them to the Estrella agency in that customer's local community, so that that marketing helps to not only establish the brand, but create leads and create growth for the whole system. So big difference with us. And you can see here just some examples of different campaigns that we've done. We've got one with the little prices right now, and then the little prices slamming the competition. And you can see some different ads there. Just wanted you folks to take a look at that. We can move on here to there's some digital kind of ads that we set up through Facebook, and here you can see what makes our agencies, and it's the owners and their employees, you know, just so you can see the kind of environment that we have, and you know, very presentable, all of the agents and their employees. And you know, most agencies grow from 4-6 employees. We have agencies that have 11, and it's a very personal business, you know, like I said. And I just wanted to give everybody an overview here. I think we've, you know, wanted to talk about all these main points, and hopefully I get to have some more one-on-one conversations with a few of you, and you know, just want to thank everybody for allowing me to introduce myself and talk a little bit more about the organization here and the opportunity that we provide.
Perfect, Felipe. Thanks a lot. Stay on, because we're going to do a few more Q&A at the end.
Great.
That being said, I want to bring on Larry Behar. I'm going to give a brief introduction to Larry, and then I'll turn it over to Larry to talk a little bit about the E2 investor visa, best practices in terms of when you're structuring it for a franchise investment, and then go over any general Q&A. So for those folks that are American green card holders, feel free to drop off. For those that are seeking an investor visa or interested in moving to the U.S., making your own American dream, if you could subscribe to this page, if you could share it, like it, and you think that any of your friends might find it informative, that'd be huge for us. And it'd be good for them to understand better about the E2 visa requirements, best practices, etc. So before I turn it over to Larry, he's been working on E2 visas since 1979. There was a year a while back that his firm processed 1% of E2 visas issued globally. So he's been doing this for many years. He speaks Spanish. You'll see him on tomorrow during our Spanish webinar. Speaks French, native of Canada. Been living in South Florida for many years now. He's been to 41 consulates and embassies abroad, meeting with the officials, better understanding the E2 visa process, because every consulate and embassy has their little nuances. He does tremendous visa prep. Every client that we've had with Larry over the past 5 or so years has been approved in the first attempt. I can't say that for every client that we've ever had at Visa franchise. Sometimes they have to go back for a second interview. With Larry, that hasn't been the case. Gets it done right the first time, very direct and transparent with the clients, and that does the client a great service, so they can get their visa approved and move to the U.S. in a timely fashion. So Larry, thanks a lot for joining today.
Well, thank you, Patrick. I want to thank, first of all, our host, Patrick Findaro, and Visa Fran for all the work that they've done in the past. This is a very unique company that has been around for a long time, but which handles the clients on a very personal level and on a private level, which of course is very important in migration to the United States. I also want to thank Felipe Martinez from Estrella, whom I've gotten to know in the last 6 months. We've worked on one case together extremely well. And I must say that their company, their history, and the fact that they are immigrants for immigrants. And I think that's really important, that they understand the psyche and the family requirements for people who are looking to migrate to the United States under the E2 visa or any other option. So thank you both for that wonderful support that you provided to our firm over the last many, many years. Our law firm, as Patrick mentioned, has been in existence since 1979. We are AV rated by Martindale Hubbell, the leading evaluation firm in the country. We represent investors and clients from approximately 36 different countries from around the world. We are trilingual. I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and of course, speak 3 languages. And so this helps a great deal because at the end of the day, it's a people-to-people business. And I personally know and understand and interface with every client that comes into our firm. We have a tremendous support team of experienced and seasoned attorneys and paralegals. But at the end of the day, I'm where the rubber meets the road. So it's our privilege and joy to be able to help the thousands of investors that we've been able to help come to the United States. Getting into the E2 visa, you must understand that the E2 visa is probably the most powerful non-immigrant visa that exists in the panoply of visas that the United States government offers. You may talk about H-1 visas or L-1 visas or other types of visas, but when you start to analyze the dynamics of the E2 as we have in depth, and you can certainly see much more detail on our website, e2lawyer.com, you'll be able to understand that the manipulation of this visa is hugely beneficial. By that, I mean that it allows the investor to be able to go in and out of the United States at will. It is a red carpet visa. It allows people to be able to be treated properly at the people by USCIS and of course Customs and Border Patrol, and also to be able to allow them to expand in the visa themselves. The investment is still relatively minimal. There is no fixed amount that the government requires for the E2 visa. We like to say that the investment should be at least $100,000, but that $100,000 in the business plan can be allocated to whatever you feel would be worthy. For example, half could be used for the franchise fee, a quarter could be used for rental costs, setup fees, and a quarter for a reserve. So anything close to $100,000 is really going to give you a gateway into a proper discussion with the consul. And as Patrick was saying, thanks to our tremendous background and experience, we've had a chance to understand the psyche that's involved in the consul's mind. Some of you have never appeared at a U.S. consulate or embassy abroad, but we literally take you and help you envisage what the experience will be like because we've been there. We understand the bulletproof windows. We understand the microphones. We understand the experience of the vice consuls. So we really put you not only in terms of documents and legal processes, but we also put you into the practical pre-interview preparation, and then ultimately the congratulations thereafter, and even to make sure that the visa has been properly prepared by the consul to make sure that there are no typographical errors. I mean, we go into a great detail. Believe it or not, the consuls of the United States through the State Department at the various embassies and consulates around the world want you to succeed. They want you to succeed in the E2 visa. They want you to succeed in the investment. They want you to come to the United States legally and properly. Therefore, it's been my pleasure to be able to assess with various consuls the value of a franchise, Estrella or other. This means that consuls understand that franchises are a business in a box. They already understand that the FDD has, or the franchise disclosure document has been prepared, that the business has been vetted, that the people who are behind it are legitimate, and that they are looking out for the best interests of the franchisee. Therefore, we really try to encourage people to consider franchises as part of their investment package for their E2 investment per se. Now, what's interesting,
Larry, if you don't mind breaking up for a quick,
Sure.
We have a question on, and we have a lot of clients that will start with a franchise, and then maybe the spouse says something else, and after 2 or 3 years, you can go into something else. but I do think it is generally the best entry to the U.S. from a business perspective. And it's great that Larry, thinks it's a great avenue from the immigration side. We're really more just focused from a business perspective. We have a question from Vit. Now, I'll go ahead and bring on Felipe as well, because it might be a little combo question for Larry and Felipe. Hi, how do you operate insurance franchise as a foreign entrepreneur? Do you need to get an insurance license in the state of Florida?
Okay, yeah, Vit, I'll address that here now. And yes, you do need to have a license in the state of Florida in order to be able to legally operate the franchise, And Larry can maybe touch base a little bit on this, but to our understanding is once you have a social security number here, you can go ahead and take a state exam to become approved for the license. But the great thing about this process is you can kind of take a course as you go through the whole process of doing this, and by the time you actually have the social security here in the States, boom, you can take the test and immediately begin the business.
That's accurate. And in addition to what Felipe was saying, we like to have our clients prepare for their arrival. They almost have to envisage that they are past the immigration aspects and their visa aspects, and that they're going to start to hit the ground running with regard to their franchise operations. Therefore, we encourage our clients to interface with the franchisor to make sure that they meet all the compliance requirements. In terms of the Social Security number, usually that is only obtained after the visa has been obtained. However, they can apply for what's called an individual tax identification number, an ITIN number, prior to coming to the United States under the visa. Therefore, one or the other should be sufficient to be able to sit for the insurance license in the state of Florida. Does that answer your question, Patrick?
Perfect, thanks. And I'm going to turn it back to Larry on the presentation.
Okay, so as I was mentioning, a real central point is the financial risk of the franchisee as he is applying for the visa. And what we have seen in the last 5 years is that the consuls are prepared to accept a conditional agreement with the franchisor subject to receipt of the E2 visa. This means that when you sign the agreement with the franchisor, you can put a clause in the agreement that the agreement will only come into force and that the fees and costs associated with the franchise will only happen once the visa has been approved. The consul wants to see that you have the financial ability to execute the agreement. However, they will not require that the investment have been made into the franchise prior to receipt of the visa. It stands to reason. Without the visa, you can't operate the franchise. But I'm really happy to know and to have the consuls understand that from a business perspective, this reduces the risk of the investor and the franchisee tremendously. Therefore, the only risk that they actually have are the out-of-pocket expenses for being able to apply for the visa and also to reserve by their own control the bank accounts that will ultimately be used for the visa application and the franchise. The visa application is normally valid for a 5-year period. The investors are allowed 2-year increments in the United States per se, and then they have to step out and come back in. But basically, it's a 5-year visa with the right of revalidation. Now, this is important because, as Felipe was mentioning, a lot of these franchise agreements are valid for 10 years with multiple options to execute. And therefore, you want to be sure that your visa situation is clear from the very beginning. So you can be assured that as long as the business is operating and everything is going profitably, that the business will be able, the visa will be able to be revalidated. The visa itself normally has a 1-month preparation time, And the consuls now accept the applications electronically. That means that we can file the application from our office here in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and then be able to start lining up the appointment for the clients. And again, this goes to, as I was mentioning before, envisioning what the final interview will be like, because many situations can be overwhelming for people who have never been to a consulate or embassy before. We make sure that the clients understand the types of questions that they are going to be faced with, and that they will have time to consider all these, as well as the practical aspects of bringing their applications to the consulate. The application includes all spouses and all minor children under the age of 21. The spouse will be able to apply for an employment authorization document, which allows him or her to be able to work in any business in the United States, including the franchise or some other operation. It gives, therefore, the family two potential cash flows and allows them to be more solid grounding. Ironically, there is no job creation requirement. In other words, while it's encouraged that the franchise hire American nationals for their operations, it's not a legal requirement. In the business plan, we do make projections to have job creation, whether it's an assistant, whether it's a manager, whether it's an accountant or a salesperson. All these people are helpful to the structure of the application. The business itself has to have a good 5-year financial projection, and the financial projection has to demonstrate that the business will allow the family to be able to subsist and to be able to survive. Normally, about an income of $50,000 a year is what the consul is looking for. And so the projections will normally demonstrate that the family can be financially independent. And these days, the consul wants to see that financial independence as much as possible. The individual must have some business experience and be able to develop and direct the enterprise. And by doing so, they have to have some business skills, but minimal. There is no requirement to have a university education. There are approximately 40 different countries around the world that qualify for E2 visa applications. And we have the list of the countries available on our website. And I'm happy to say that this list is continuously being added to on a regular basis. Portugal is coming online soon. Israel was approved last year. And so those
I think we're up to 81.
81.
If I'm not mistaken. So it's really exciting to see these new countries. And
thank you. I see I blinked and already it's already up to 81.
We've only been in this for like 5 years. Larry in his 40 plus years. It seems like the only ones that get canceled, it's usually from the government, like the foreign government. Like I know Bolivia canceled it a while ago. Ecuador canceled it. Is that correct? Does the U.S. ever cancel these treaties?
No. And as a matter of fact, what's interesting is historically, the United States government has had contractual relationships and treaties with countries going back to the 19th century. That's how long that they've been going. Like
I think the UK one's like 150 years.
Yeah, UK, Colombia has been around for a long time. Canada has been around for a long time. So yes, there's a relationship. There's a quid pro quo, the relationship between the two countries, because they're actually engaging in commerce and applying for it. Now, a very important point that you're just bringing up now, Patrick, is that there is no quota in the E2 visa. Now, this is important because while the United States generally accepts about 800,000 immigrants to the United States, there is no limit to the number of E2 investors that can apply. They normally there are about 3,000 visa applicants in the E2 category annually. But we feel that it's probably the most powerful and rapid structural visa that you can apply for. All other visas are fraught with risk, including the immigrant visa in EB-5, which has doubled in investment levels.
And we have a question. You mentioned Colombia. A question from Raul. I've been living in New York City for almost 2 years as an international student, currently on an F1 visa. from Colombia. May I apply to get an E2 visa change of status with a franchise like Estrella Insurance? Is that possible?
So the short answer is yes, that we have a lot of clients who start off with an F1 visa here in the United States. They learn about the E2 visa and the power of the E2 visa, and then either they return to their home country, in this case, Bogota, where we've been very successful in terms of getting the visas from there. And so that's not an issue. We encourage the clients to actually go to the embassy to get their visas rather than do a change of status, unless there's an overriding reason why the person would want to do a change of status. The reason for that is that the change of status is only valid for 2 years, and the timeline to be able to get an approval of that type of change of status could be 6 to 7 months, whereas the application at the embassy can be wrapped up in approximately 2 months. So we like to encourage them to do that. Now, recently with the COVID situation, there have been certain embassies and consulates that have suspended their operations. However, these embassies and consulates are lining up to reopen in the near future, and we encourage people to think about their franchise opportunities. Our law firm represents only the investor. We want to make that very clear up front. We do not represent the franchisor. We do not represent the agents or the brokers. We represent strictly you, the investor, and no one else. There is a confidential relationship, a lawyer-client privilege that's established right from the beginning, and our agreement outlines all these issues right away. So thank you, Raul, for your excellent question. Does anybody have any other questions? Because, you know, lawyers can babble on for a long time, but I'm not that kind of a lawyer. I like to get right to the point and let people know. We've had clients invest in all sorts of different types of franchises. And basically, if there's a franchise that's been vetted by the franchise industry, then chances are high that we will be able to process the application with the minimum threshold. I also have to tell you that investors, of course, need to have a clean record, no criminal activity, and the delays at the consulate, if there's no disclosure, can be very long. Finally, the source of funds. We want to make sure that the client has a clear source of funds to be able to demonstrate where the money came from and where it's going. And with that, I think that it creates elements for an excellent visa application.
Larry, could you tell us a little bit about your services and how you help these E2 visa applicants, and anything that might distinguish you from other immigration attorneys or other attorneys supporting E2 visa petitions?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. After being in practice since 1979, you can imagine that most of the referrals that we receive are through word of mouth. We're not very active on social media. We need to have a referral for us to consider the client to become a client of our firm. We have multiple vetting levels to ensure that the client is qualified before even engaging with us. I will spend whatever time is needed to ensure that the client is vetted. Once the client is vetted, then we can go ahead and prepare usually an American limited liability company that they will own and control. In the case of the franchise, they will own 100% of that limited liability company or corporation if it's better for tax purposes. And then we have a whole team behind me. Not only do we have the legal team and the paralegal team, but we also assist in the preparation of the business plan. And then we allow the client to interface with all the professionals that they will need to make a success of their company here in the United States. That includes a qualified CPA, certified public accountant, and banking relationships. Very important to establish banking relationships and accounting relationships right from the get-go. We normally help foreign nationals from the ground up. We understand that you're starting at ground zero with us, and we do not have a time frame. There are some clients who are able to turn around their documents quickly, other clients that take time. We have one client in Chile right now who's been with us for 3 weeks, and he's almost finished in terms of his documentation to be able to present to the U.S. consul in Santiago. We have another client who's in Spain, who's starting from ground zero, and she needs a bit more time to develop her business platform. And we're okay with that. We don't have a time frame. We don't charge by the hour. We are on the top end of the market because of our extremely high success rate and our experience. As you can see, I'm not exactly a novice in the industry, but we do care. I'm a double immigrant. All our staffs are immigrants. We've all been through it. We've all feel it, and personally in our hearts and in our minds. And if we can help your clients and you and the public to be able to be successful in America, then let's go for it.
Well said, Larry. At the end of the day, you get what you pay for. Unfortunately, we've been doing this for 5+ years now. We have had clients engage attorneys that maybe they're more focused on family immigration, and they got to go back, generally another time for an interview, even a third time. So it causes a lot of strain for all people involved, but especially the client. You're making a huge decision, moving to the U.S., You're going to live the American dream, but you got to do it in a well thought out manner and get that visa approval and make a soft landing in the U.S. oftentimes through a franchise with us. We have a question from Jose. Is there any difference in the visa approval possibility depending if you buy an existing business, so like basically a non-franchise, I imagine, or get a franchise?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for the question, Jose. There is no substantial difference in terms of applying for the E2 visa if the business is current or if you're acquiring a franchise, whether that franchise is operating or is new. The only concern that we have about acquiring a current business is that we like to make sure that a qualified accountant has gone through the numbers of that business before the acquisition is done. That's because we don't know what type of business you're acquiring, whether it's profitable or not. The CPA will be able to proceed and analyze that and be able to get back to us so that we prepare the business plan accordingly. However, there's no reason not to proceed with an existing business. But use caution and caveat emptor, which means that the buyer needs to be aware of the matter. You also need to know that the consuls will want to see the track record of this business for the last 3 to 5 years to make sure that that you are acquiring a business that is viable.
All right. Well, it's 1:10. We've gone through a bunch of questions. I want to bring Felipe back on. Really appreciate everyone coming. Felipe, it was awesome to have you on. It was good to learn more. Every time we talk, I learn about the insurance industry. It's a great fit for many of our clients. Larry, thanks again for joining. Kind of last minute, but I thought it was really good to have an attorney on the line that has actually worked with Estrella and has worked on a case for the E2 visa with Estrella Insurance. And feel free to reach out to any of us if you'd like to talk further. I'll go ahead and send a link if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation with Larry or with Felipe after this. And just wanted to thank everyone again for joining today, and appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Larry. By the way, extremely informative. Extremely informative. Really, really enjoyed the information you provided. And thank you everybody for attending, and I hope to hear back from some of you.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.